There is just something about the shotgun, whether it is a pump action or a semi-auto like this Mossberg 930 SPX. It's got a lot of names, but nothing commands the respect like a 12 gauge shotgun. So this thing is just an angry 12 gauge shotgun. So we've all seen the movies, and that's what most people base their ideas and their reality on, what a shotgun does or what it can do, although some of that is true. But shotguns have a ton of different nicknames, and if brought out in public when somebody means business or it's about to be used, it may make you have a religious experience, or it may make you say weird things, kind of like these. Oh damn, sweet baby Jesus. Somebody gonna get hurt today. You done fucked up, Aaron. Either way, shotguns are absolutely awesome, especially semi-auto shotguns like this. Now, I did a video on kind of like my top three, like the best top three things, whether it's a rifle, pistol, that I think people could own. And when I removed myself out of that, I came to a few things. I'll link that video down below, but one of the things that was missing was a shotgun. And a lot of people kind of was curious to why that was. By no means do I don't like shotguns. I love shotguns. I've got several of them, but they're just not the easiest thing in the world to run for the masses. Now, somebody left a comment on that video about anyone who says that you can't run a shotgun needs to train more or whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. And they linked to a video of Jerry Muchalik and his daughter. You're gonna link a dude who's got world records running shotguns and stuff to the rest of us common people that are gonna have something like this. So that inspired me to do some shotgun videos, starting with the 930 SPX, and we're definitely gonna get into more of the shotguns I have. But speaking of this one specifically, I broke this thing in half at one point in time, or at least I broke the stock of it off, and we're gonna get into that a little bit more and how that happened, because it's a really stupid story. So I don't know about you, I wanna see a little bit more of this thing running. Let's check out some more footage of this thing running. I am not as proficient as I once was with a shotgun. Well, there is just nothing like having a good time out there with a good 12 gauge shotgun. So we're gonna get into all the specs on this. I'm gonna show you how this thing works, how it feeds, all the good stuff that you probably wanna know if you're gonna be getting into the semi-auto world. And we'll kind of talk about how running this thing actually is. Of course, talk about more of that range footage and things you may experience with a semi-auto shotgun out there, depending on what type of load you're gonna run. Well, if you guys like big shotguns like that or anything that's going on here, go ahead and get subbed up, get belled up, turn the bell notification icons down there to all on. If you like what's going on here, give that video a like. We're gonna go ahead and check the specs out on this thing. First, huge thank you to all of my Patreons and shall not comply. I'll put a shirt up here somewhere for handling the swag for the channel. It is a huge help. We're gonna go ahead and get into the specs on this thing right now. All right, let's jump into the 930 SPX. Now I know you can't see the whole thing at once, everybody, but the thing is 3.5 feet long. Give me a break here. So it's massive for this overhead rig that I use here for these videos. But let's go ahead and go through the basic specs on this. We'll talk about how this gas system in here and the recoil system and everything actually works, so you guys have a really good understanding. So basic specs on this, it's a 12 gauge. It's gonna take all the shells between 2 3/4 to 3 inch and all the shells in that spectrum of that size. We got a total weight here of 7.75 pounds, overall length on this bad boy of 38 inches. It's a shotgun. It's longer than a lot of stuff out there. I think all of us know that. 7 + 1. What does that mean? You got 7 in this pipe right here and 1 in the hole that's ready to rock and roll. So the barrel on this thing is 18.5 inches. It's got that length of pull of 13.9 inches. So for my big shotgun trap shooter, you know you have to fit that to you, but that's what this one comes with. It's got a fixed cylinder and it's black synthetic material. There are a bunch of different options when it comes to this thing, and this is obviously the semi-automatic. So we're gonna go ahead and go from butt stock to business end right here, talking about what we get with this. So you have a very traditional looking shotgun rifle stock. Okay, you have a little bit of curvature in here, pretty much everything that you're used to. You've got a little eyelet down here that you can tie a string through and make a holster, do whatever you want. Then you got a little rubberized pad here, which actually pretty effectively does its job. Nothing special about the stock. You'll see right there, yep, that was on fire because I was playing with it. That is your safety, which is nice because other shotguns have safeties down the trigger guard. I prefer them up here, although that one is polymer, and we will talk more about that in a minute. Got that nice little Mossberg 930 logo right there. You've got a nice section of rail up there with the ghost ring sights. You can put a red dot on this. You can do whatever you want there. Moving forward from that, you're gonna have your pretty standard looking trigger guard right there. Your bolt system, your bolt lever right there. Not a ton, but just enough to work with a finger. That's your bolt release button. Going forward from there, you'll see your bottom port for your shells to load the actual magazine tube. And that is pretty much the action section of this. Going forward, you're gonna see that nice long 18.5-inch barrel. You got that nice high-vis red front sight for those ghost rings. Your magazine tube, everything pretty basic stuff here. So let's talk about how this system actually works. And while we're talking about this, let's talk about the part in here that broke, and I'll throw a picture of it. We'll tell a story on how it broke in a little bit. So inside of here, there's just a metal rod, and that holds the spring. It's almost like think of like an AR, the recoil spring and buffer assembly in there. Kind of the same principle, right? It's in here, and it's a very thin rod that holds that spring. Well, that actually broke. I will throw a picture of it here so you guys can't see that. So it broke the whole thing off right here where it meets the actual portion of the metal receiver. So it was a pain in the butt to fix. Now that is what controls and helps mitigate that recoil and gives you the semi-auto action. Sorry about that, the battery died. So let's talk about how this thing actually functions. So this is gas operated. So as the shot shell is sending all that gas down range, it's gonna cycle that bolt. But how does everything actually work? From pulling of the trigger to loading the next shot shell in there from the magazine tube, which is the lower one, getting the bolt go back forward. How does all that stuff happen? So we got to talk about the internal parts here, and I'm gonna do the best I can with this, and I'm gonna use a flashlight, which I normally hate because it really looks odd in here, but we're gonna do this so you guys have a good understanding of what's going on. So right up in this area, you'll see this bar, and it kind of has a notch in it right there. I know it might be a little tough to see. That notch is gonna correspond with the rear of that shot shell, which we will show in just a second. And that bar is basically controlled, well, not basically, partially controlled by the bolt and partially controlled by your release lever right there. So you can actually see that thing moving very slightly right there. So let's talk about how this thing functions. So up in here, get my flashlight for you, press this down. You're gonna see that's the magazine tube, right? That part with right there that has the little hole in it. Just on the side of that, if you look on this edge over here, you're gonna see that rod that kind of over encompasses the portion of it, and you'll see it move right there. So that is what keeps the fresh shells actually in the magazine tube. That is also the section that allows the bolt to both lock back and go back into battery, depending on if your shot shell is back in there and stuck in that groove that we talked about. So since this is empty, it will lock back, right? Now, if we have a casing in here, what happens is, as that fresh shell flies back like this out of the magazine tube because it's under pressure, it captures that groove in the bottom section of that rod. Now, what that effectively does is it's basically activating the bolt release for you. And I'm gonna show you right there. You can see now that since there's no shot shell, that rod is pushed all the way over and is capturing the bolt. Now, when I remove that and push the button, it allows the bolt to go forward. So you see that groove again right there. Now, if the shot shell were to be in there, it would put just enough pressure on that. You see it moving right there? That would put just enough pressure back there to not only keep the next fresh shell in here, but to allow the bolt to bypass that locking mechanism and go ahead and run and chamber that next round. It also allows the gate to flip up and down. I know that might have been a little bit rudimentary for some of you. It's a very cool system. It's very easy, but at the same time, very ingenious that it works like that. So let's go ahead and talk about price, the good, the bad, if there's anything I'm gonna change on this, my overall feelings, of course, of the shotgun. There's just nothing like a good shotgun, and semi-autos is where it is at. Whether you got a 930 SPX or that Beretta 1301, which I'm really looking at getting into, or you got the king of the hill, the Benelli M4. Shotguns are just something that I think everybody should have. It just didn't fall into that like top 3 because not everybody can run them that great, myself included. So the reason I wanted to run this thing again was it's been a long time. Went out there, ran those drills, had some fun, shot some bird shot, shot some double aught stuff, and it was just a good experience, even though I was like super hot, it was raining, and it was just not a fun day on the range. It was a fun day on the range. It wasn't a fun temperature at the range. Well, let's talk about that story of how I broke this thing. Basically broke it in half. So I was cleaning out the safe over here, just kind of moving some stuff around, trying to organize it because safes that say, oh, it fits 30 guns. Yeah, it fits like 12. We all know safe companies are completely lying to us. So I had set this thing against the wall, against the safe, muzzled down just like this. And when I'd walked away, the door kind of pushed back a little bit against this piece of carpet that I had against the wall. And it just fell over just like that and hit the edge of the inside of the safe as it was empty. That little bit of movement literally snapped off the little recoil assembly rod that's in here, which is like almost paper thin. Broke the thing right in half, made it completely unusable. So I had to buy another one, I had to replace that. It was just a real pain in the butt. Now, being that this is a 930 SPX tactical shotgun, I kind of expected it to be able to take a little bit more of anything than just literally from the ground falling over and breaking in half. That was not a huge positive for this. Now, once I replaced that, this one in here, it's fallen over before as well. I've thrown it in the back of the truck. I haven't had that issue, so I don't know if I just had one that was maybe fractured from the factory or not, but that was definitely not a positive. The only other thing that is not a huge positive for me is that right there. So that safety, that action right there, it's plastic and it's kind of like I wish there was just a little bit more meat to it just because of the way my hand fits on it. So I will definitely be putting some more parts on this thing. Probably, we're gonna do a build on this thing because I just wanna change it. This poor thing has been in the safe forever. It's gotten no love in like 2 or 3 years. So we're gonna do some things to this shotgun, but those are really my only 2 gripes. The fact that I kind of broke it, which was technically my fault, and I just don't dig that safety. But there are other upgrades out there that I am definitely looking into. So talking about the positives on the 930 SPX, one, the thing just looks mean. I mean, shotguns just have a look all to their own. This thing runs blazing fast. You can run this thing as fast as you can probably run a shotgun. In fact, I think like Mutulik, actually, since we talked to him, Jerry, I think he's actually sponsored or was at one point by Mossberg. Check the videos out of that dude and how fast he can run these things. As far as the recoil management on this thing goes, it's not bad at all, depending on the load. So different loads are gonna recoil obviously quite a bit more than others. It comes with the cool ghost ring sights, depending on the model you get. Huge plus, plus it comes, at least this version, with some quad rail up here, so you can mount a red dot to it if you are interested in it. Now, I know the safety design was kind of a negative, but it's also actually a huge positive because it's up here rather than down here on the trigger guard like the Remington and stuff. I really like that. I like having the safety away from where my trigger finger is, just because it seems to be more comfortable for me to get to use, and it's a heck of a lot faster for me to just go on and off with it like that than it is to push and then kind of come around or do something like this, because I just get to keep the same position like this. And that's like a Mossberg Remington thing, but that's definitely, like I said, I wish it was aluminum and not polymer. I wish it was a little bit bigger, so I'm gonna get a different one, but at the same time, I like the location of it. All right, now talking about the cost of these things. So I've had this specific one, I wanna say like 6 or 7 years. So it's been a long time. I've had this for a while. So when I bought this thing, it it was like 650 bucks. So now they are far closer to like 850 or more. There are some models that are over $1,000. If you want that super slick, like Mariner version or Marine version, or the I don't know if it's MP3 or Super, whatever it is. So it's a totally different version. It's about, you know, $400 or $500 more expensive than this one was, but you can get this exact model. I want to say I saw it for about $850. Of course, prices are still just all over the place. Now, is that fair for a good semi-auto shotgun like this? I would say even at $850, it still is. Now you step into that like next one that's got a lot of popularity recently, which is the Beretta 1301. That thing is slick, and I'm probably gonna pick one up too, but that thing is like well over $1,000. I wanna say it's like 13 or 1400-ish, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong. And then when you start stepping into stuff like the Benellis or some other stuff like that, you get into the multiple thousands of dollars for a shotgun. And yeah, there are advantages and maybe better. The Benelli V4 is kind of the king of the hill, but this one's probably gonna do most of us really well for what we're gonna be using it for. With that being said, she needs some love. So it's been in the safe for a long time. I don't shoot shotguns a ton anymore. And that's something that I should probably do more of, because running these things, as you saw out there, is not as simple as other things, because if you run out of ammo, you gotta reload it through the side, hit the release button. You gotta do different things. And as you can see, I definitely flubbed a couple of them. So because of all that, I'm gonna start shooting all my shotguns more, and we are going to do some stuff to this. Some of the small parts that could make running this a little easier, and then kind of make it a little nicer. I think I'm gonna put a red dot on it too, because those sights and just ducking my head down that low is kind of uncomfortable if you're taller. So probably gonna put a dot on there of some kind. I don't know, it'll probably be something that's moderately priced that all of us can go out there, pick up, afford, and feel comfortable with having on a shotgun. And that is what I have for you all today. Make sure you get subbed up, get belled up, turn on the notifications, give the video a like if you're into shotguns or anything else that's going on here. Huge thank you to all of my Patreons, and shall not comply for being the clothing sponsor of the channel. Links for all that stuff will be down below. If you're interested in all of that stuff you saw here on this thing, I'll put those, follow the first link in the web description or whatever down below. Take you to my website. All that stuff will be listed there. Guys, get out, have some fun on the range. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. God, that thing's just angry. I'll see you guys on the next one.